What struck you the most about the devastation you saw?
I think the hardest part when I try and describe it to people is it really is so vast that it almost defies description. And I didn't really understand the extent of the crisis until I took a helicopter ride with the U.S. military. And when we got up in the helo and you could see that, a large portion of the country was literally submerged. I believe some of the Marines were calling it water world. That's when I really started to understand how dire the situation in Pakistan is.
You yourself were a Navy SEAL. Did you have this urge to go in and help instead of being a journalist?
Mm. I did, and I was privileged enough to be there with a humanitarian group that was doing work, and I was actually able to assist them and report at the same time, which I think sort of gave me a greater appreciation for the uphill battle that aid workers are facing in Pakistan. And playing to my SEAL roots, I did actually have to take a swim in the River Indus when I was there, just to stay true to my roots.
Something that people often ask me when they hear that I'm a journalist is, how do you cope with the suffering and the devastation that you see on a personal level?
Yeah. I think that's actually one of the most fundamentally difficult questions about our profession, and candidly, it's something I struggle with a lot. Is you see so many people who need help so badly. So my solution is twofold. Is one, that if I'm right there, like, I do help to the best of my ability, because you can't see somebody in need and not do something. And the second solution is I do think that the nature of our work is to bring attention to the plight of people in places that people don't often get to see. And through that attention, that sometimes that will foster greater help from the international community.
I wanted also to talk to you about the aid workers themselves. What are the risks that they face? This is not an easy area with the Taliban, and it's a militant haven for them to really work.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a cauldron of forces that are swirling around in Pakistan, from non-state actors like the Taliban and militants, to the military, to general crime in an area where people are starting to get desperate. All of these are factors that potentially could be harmful to aid workers in the area. In some cases, you see even the Taliban are saying they're now going to specifically target Western aid workers. So it's a real issue.
And why are they specifically targeted? We see that more and more. What is the reason?
Mm. It's a very difficult question to answer. One thing is that Western aid workers don't enjoy the perception of neutrality that they once did. It used to be that you could drive through a firefight with a Red Cross symbol on the side of your truck, and you had some sort of de facto immunity. Nowadays, it's the opposite. In fact, aid workers are specifically targets, and a lot of this has to do with them being viewed as not neutral anymore, being part of the Western agenda, being part of a political agenda. So in the minds of some of the militants and extremists, they're legitimate targets.
And Kaj, something that I'm curious about, how did you go from being a Navy SEAL to being a journalist?
Yeah. I like to joke that I traded my gun for a camera, or that shooting people just in a different way. So the transition was unexpected, but I had an opportunity to go back into some of the places that I had served, and to be able to tell some of those stories. As a SEAL, a lot of the operations that we do are classified. They'll never see the light of day. But as a journalist, I was able to go there and tell a different side of the story, often from the perspective of the people in the country. And I felt that was fundamentally important to getting truth out. So it wasn't planned. It happened serendipitously and haphazardly, and I think can be extremely important if it's done right.
And so what were you able to shed light on this specific trip, something that was very dear to you and you wanted to talk about, but you couldn't when you were a Navy SEAL. Did you encounter something on this trip that you were able to talk about?
Yeah, I think one of the difficulties is when you go in as a member of the military in a place like Pakistan, is that there is an inherent distrust of U.S. military personnel. And so you don't necessarily get to engage with people about their core beliefs and their core feelings. And so I was able to take a journey where I drove hundreds and hundreds of kilometers throughout central and southern Pakistan in some very affected and some very remote rural regions. And I got to talk to people who had never met an American before. And I got to sit down and have chai tea with them and discuss their views about America. And I think that's a really unique, extraordinary opportunity that I would have never had in the military, and it allowed me to really engage with people as one human being to another from different sides of the planet, but who could come together, civilly and discuss issues over chai tea. So that's a very unique experience to a journalist in country.
Kaj Larson, thank you very much.